What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the SOC University podcast. I'm your host, of course, Adam Duty. Of course, this podcast is dedicated to anybody that wants to be self-made, self-paid while boosting their personal career, brand, or business. And guys, when I tell you we have a special guest here today, but number one, I've been trying to get this guest for a long time. I've been trying to get this guest for a long time. So number one, thank you for joining. But this guest is the founder of Collective Career Consulting. She has over 15 years of experience. Very, very excited to have her. Everybody make some noise for Dr. Carlotta Roman. Virtual clap, virtual clap.
Clap, clap,
All
clap,
right.
clap.
Dr. Roman, welcome, welcome.
Hey, I am here. Nice to be with you, Adam.
Absolutely, absolutely. So on this podcast, it's really for the entrepreneur that's trying to start. Um, Definitely with me too, like being in entrepreneurship for a long time. And definitely trying to get into the mindset of wanting to step out and step out on faith. And sometimes stepping out into entrepreneurship is very difficult. You're trying to decide whether if you want to continue working your job or go specifically into entrepreneurship. So this is considered our freshman season.
Yes.
Right. So everything is broken up to our freshman, junior, senior, sophomore, all those connected. Right. Mm-hmm. So this season, it's basically about mental health.
Yeah.
Right? So I just want to get people into the mindset of jumping to that entrepreneurship level. Okay. And I know, again, it can be very difficult, especially when you're dealing with a job and rotating all these different things around. So I thought you would be a perfect guest because I know what your experience with coaching, consulting, talking, your educational level, and just honestly, like I said, I've known you personally and I've looked up to you for a long, 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 long time, a long, long time. Right. So this episode is going to be dedicated about mental health.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to dive into that. But before we dive into it a little bit further, can you please tell more about yourself for the guests that are listening?
All right. Well, first, I just want to say I'm excited to be here. Thank you for that intro and those kind words, and just even the topic around mental health and everything that we do in entrepreneurship. It's so necessary to put a spotlight on that. But as you said, the founder of Collective Career Consulting LLC, and this is my baby that I officially started in 2018. But before that, the work was developing years in the making, even when I was just working in the corporate space and doing a lot of stuff for free. But we can't stay on for free, but it helped me to build a network. So I'm the senior business psychologist, and that's very similar to things that we support in the HR realm. So I do HR consulting, and my consultancy focuses on diversity, equity, inclusion,
Nice.
and organizational change in the workplace. So even conversations around mental health and diversity, equity, and inclusion go hand in hand. My focus is just to increase inclusivity, equity, and wellness in the workplace. So if I had to sum all of that up in terms of what I do, another big part of things that I do outside of some university teaching is volunteering on a local board that I'm very proud to be of. I'm the board vice chair and equity task force chair for the Lake County Workforce Development Board, which really focuses on funding and workforce services for residents and businesses within Lake County. So all of this branding and things that I do focuses on the DEI space.
Nice. Okay. Perfect. So first thing, let's dive into like your upbringing, right? Okay. Just a little bit in the mindset of when you first like started off. So the degree and everything that you have and having the title of your name, was that something that you wanted to start off with, or you thought like this is what I want to like go into as far as a career, or did that just kind of like happen?
All right, let me take you back. Take you back. So, if the listeners are not already hearing it, there's maybe a little undertone of a Southern twang in my voice. So,
Yeah.
when we talk about childhood, my beginnings came from Louisiana and Mississippi.
Okay.
And, with my family, it was a working family, but not always having everything you needed. And one of
Mhm.
those things was getting lost in encyclopedia. So, one of the people I always look to, I said, I'm going to be like Albert Einstein and science. I wanted to be a scientist. So I knew that I always wanted to, get my degree in some kind of way and go to college and do sciences.
Mhm.
Um, Entrepreneurship came later. That
Okay.
wasn't something that I was even thinking about. I was thinking about joining the military and doing science. But as I got in a corporate space working for Volkswagen Group of America, I really love training and development. I really love connecting with people and solving problems for the business to increase effectiveness. So when I was doing all of that, I was just realizing that I need to help more people. And I really started thinking about how I can tie that to legacy of the
Mm.
different things I want in my life, a little bit more flexibility and independence as I grow my own personal family, and just building something in ownership of my own, taking some pride in that. So for myself, it developed into that, but I could definitely give kudos to my mother. She's always been talking about entrepreneurship and multiple businesses.
Hmm. Okay. So I heard you talk about Volkswagen. That was actually, it's funny. That's a topic that I wanted to talk about. Um, because I do remember at a time you were working with Volkswagen, right?
Yes,
And we would have conversations about like actually me trying to work with Volkswagen, right?
yes.
And
Hmm.
at that time, I was in the beginning stages of where I was. I was nightclub promoting, management. I was trying to specifically find myself, right? Um, and you talked a little bit about that. Do you think that was a time for you where you were trying to find like your specific niche or where you were trying to go? Was that like specifically like straight out of college, or where was that at? What point was that?
Volkswagen went straight out of college.
Okay.
And it's funny because we always say, how did you get here at
Yes.
Volkswagen? It really wasn't supposed to be a part of my story. I came through the door working in a call center, customer service on phones. And I tell you, people who I still am connected to previously from Volkswagen, still at Volkswagen, would say, Carlotta, I could quote her always saying, I'm just here for a little bit. I'm going to get my
Oh,
PhD. So I was
yes.
saying that
That's what I'm asking.
going through the door.
Mhm.
And I wanted to get a PhD in like environmental science. But
Okay.
working at Volkswagen, it was not just a job, it was a career. I love being there. So this was my only job right after college. I was there
Okay.
for about 14 years and had maybe about 6 or 7 positions and was able to learn a lot. So my niche in terms of entrepreneurship came out of the work that I did at Volkswagen.
Perfect. Okay. I tell people all the time, like, there's certain ways that you can look at a job or
Yeah,
something or a place of employment. You can either, and I've said this before, you can either be there and like, I hate this place, I don't want to
yeah.
be there, or you can learn from that place and apply it to what you're trying to do as well. So I'm glad that you said that as far as Volkswagen, but you were already speaking about that's a temporary stop for you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You were already talking about that when you were actually there. So that's good. I'm glad that you actually said that.
Well, my temporary stop for 2 years turned into 14 years. But it's what I needed. And
Yeah.
I think as we're talking of entrepreneurship, what's important is to think about transferable skills.
Hmm.
What I'm doing in the workplace or what I'm doing where I'm currently at, how does that transfer? So being open-minded and being
Hmm.
adaptable to new experiences. So I really love how you said, it could be a learning experience. And I
Hmm.
do this in career coaching with people. And I say, when you're going and getting a job or a position, don't look at it as I'm just getting this job for more pay or,
Yep.
to supply different needs. What's my purpose? What's my
Yep.
strategy? There should be a
Mhm.
plan for it and even a timeline in it.
Yep.
I mean, presently, there are so many shifts in the workplace. We all have to be objective and have a strategy to why we're where we are.
Right. Okay. So let's shift a little bit towards your mindset, right? Because of course
Yeah.
the podcast is dedicated towards that. When you were at Volkswagen and you knew pretty much that time was coming where you were going to step away from Volkswagen, right?
Yeah.
What was your mindset or mentality at that point? And then also, if you had friends or family members or acquaintances, people that were close by you, I know sometimes people can say, hey, you should stay there. Like you got a good career there. Like continue to be there. Why do you want to leave and do this? Or why do you
Hmm.
want to go back to school? Tell me about your mindset at
Yeah.
that time and what you use or what you thought about to keep you focused on like you have a bigger goal that's in play.
Yeah. So, the pursuit of my advanced degree was always something I wanted to do. And
Okay.
over the years, I wanted to make sure that that wasn't lost. That was important.
Okay.
I got two master's degrees before that while I was still at Volkswagen. So that's a whole nother beast to work and go to school at the same time.
Hmm.
But I love Volkswagen. I grew up at Volkswagen. I could still have been at Volkswagen. I'll say that. For me to leave Volkswagen was actually like a bird leaving the nest. That's what
Mm.
my thought was. If
Okay.
I wanted to do consulting and I wanted to be a resource to businesses, Volkswagen couldn't be my only business experience. So leaving Volkswagen, I knew I needed that to grow. I was too comfortable. It was too
Got it.
familiar for me. And when I left Volkswagen, I actually left and took on an IT change analyst position and left $13,000 on the table. So
Really?
I took a step down in my salary to expand my change management experience and then to get that back up when I went to a consulting agency. So I knew it was
Nice.
about strategy
Yep.
and as well as, being a household of one at the time,
Yep.
even now helps me to be adaptable to that. My leaving Volkswagen was over time. I was a part of a large IT project and it was a beautiful project, but some of the things that I saw in the corporate space, I was like, this is not me long
Mm-hmm.
term. There's certain things I don't want to do or give up. So I need that flexibility. So my transition out was over some time. I would say the biggest hallmark was when I stopped taking advantage of the Volkswagen lease program for employees. And instead of a Volkswagen and Audi, I went and got me a Mercedes. So that was a sign. People were like, why you got that Mercedes in the parking lot? So
Yeah.
my mindset was that I knew one, I had to grow. So I had to go to grow. That was the biggest thing for
Go
me.
to grow. Got it.
Um, because my whole point was that I'm doing consulting with businesses. What's my experience with
Mm.
other businesses and then joining a consulting firm and joining a startup and growing my startup. So all of these things was being flexible
Okay.
and being adaptable to the experience.
Okay.
So if I wanted to do change in consulting and I climbed the ladder doing something internal, you might have to
Mhm.
come down a notch to reposition yourself to move forward.
Right.
So that was kind of my mindset, a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. Having a growth mindset is so, so important as an entrepreneur because you got to be agile. You got to
Yeah.
be able to adapt with change.
Absolutely. You dropped a gem when you said go to grow. Yeah.
That's what I kept saying. I
I
can't
need to
stay
get
here.
that on a wall somewhere.
And I did used to say, I was like, I'm not gonna stay up in here with a PhD. I mean, I could
Yeah.
have. I was trying to get to corporate, but I feel
Yeah.
like God knew what he was doing because I was like, I
Yeah.
want to move to Virginia. I want to move to Virginia, applying for this and that. But ultimately, I needed to, leave the nest
Hmm.
and to grow.
Wow, that was wonderful. Another point that you brought up when you were talking about being there, since we're talking about mental health and entrepreneurship, you talked about leaving money on the table when you left that job.
Yes.
right? For some people, of course, like at the end of the day, entrepreneurship, we want financial freedom.
Yes.
You said you left money on the table so that you can learn some new skills, right? Talk a little bit more about that, because a lot of times people think that taking a step back is like they're failing, or they're not going to be able
Mhm.
to recoup and get back to the level where they were. Um, and now times $13,000 difference, that's a lot of money, you know. It's over $1,000 a month, which can help towards bills.
Yeah.
It was only a temporary setback.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about that. And when you first saw that difference, did you think like, no, I'm not going to do this? Or you were like, let me think about it? Or you knew right away you were going to do it anyway?
Oh yeah, I knew right away that I was
Okay.
going to do it because within 6 months I had already recouped that when I left one organization for the next, which I wasn't trying to be at the organization I went to for 6 months, but there was a new leadership, or there was a merger happened and things were changing. I was like, oh, I see the writing on the wall. Time to step out.
Okay.
Um, well, one, I did my research. Did my research on, okay, well, why am I leaving Volkswagen? I want to do
Okay.
consulting and I want to grow in the change management space. My
Okay.
experience with that was that I did a project internally with Volkswagen, which was like very important to the organization. And I worked with consultants and vendors, and it was so great. So if I wanted to do external consulting, I need to grow in this space. So doing the research of the knowledge and the position and the earning potential, going to Glassdoor, going
Yep.
to salary.com, knowing what that range was and what opportunities were available. So I knew if I wanted to go to Huron Consulting Group, which is a corporation in Chicago that I worked at. It's not a Deloitte or a KPMG, but it is up there in terms of consulting firms. I
Okay.
knew getting that change experience formally on my resume and then jumping out was important. So I knew it was something I could take. So doing the research, one, and
Okay.
two, looking at, well, if I give this up, how does this impact my life and my lifestyle?
Right.
I already was living life in such a way where I wasn't drowning. Like after I paid my bills and helped someone else, I had extra.
Yeah.
So to give that up wasn't a lot. So I was
Okay.
already making a higher level salary. So to take that dip was okay. So
Okay.
positioning myself, I would say, would be the second thing. The research and positioning myself to be able to handle this change was important. And the new job was only like an extra 10 minutes away from where I was
Okay.
already going to be.
That's always good.
Yeah.
Were you sharing that information with anybody, like the change in salary or what your thoughts were? Because again, too, like when you're doing these things, sometimes people can say like, why are you doing that? Like you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't take a step back. You work so hard to get there. Like, were you sharing that information with anybody?
Oh yeah. So when I was on my previous leader, when I was on the IT project team, and even my
Mm,
own leader in some ways, well, I won't, because there was more of a personal friendship there with,
yep.
so people on my team. But
Yep.
in terms of the why I'm doing it,
Mhm.
there were some people who got it, and then there was other people who did it. So I had one really good friend, I'm gonna say Dubois. He knows who he is. I remember him saying, are you sure, Lottie, this is what you want to do? He said, I don't want you to make, I think, what did he say, a long-term decision on a short-term feeling or something, because
Short-term
there was
feeling,
something
right?
else happening within the team
Okay.
that I was on.
Okay.
Two people were being let go, and I just didn't even see the opportunity for growth in the next 3 years for myself in that position underneath that leader. So I was
Okay.
just like, time, now was the time to leave. So you know I talked to who I need to talk to, and I understood not everybody would get it, but I don't do things based upon,
Other people.
yeah, other people. If I want to do
Yeah.
something, I'm ambitious, I'm gonna go ahead and do it.
Absolutely. Okay. And also dealing with like mental health and entrepreneurship. I know personal development is like a big thing for that.
Yes.
So it was already saying to me, based on what you're saying, you already had a strong mindset at that age,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of times people get comfortable. And I try to remind people all the time, like you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, because if
Yes.
you're not doing that, you're not challenging yourself, for new things. And you can't be afraid to fail at
Yeah.
things, you know? So that's great that you said that. I'm glad that you even said that too as well.
I think I'm on the extreme of that. I creatively gave my I think I used to say this on the team of Volkswagen, but I creatively gave myself a condition. I said I have a compulsive activity disorder. So like I would work,
Hmm.
go to school. In my job I was traveling, but then I also was like on a board in some community things, so I kind of signed myself up for a lot of stuff. So I think what I'm definitely learning right now as an entrepreneur is
Yep.
I gotta say no, and I need to track my time better. And
Yep.
I'm just like, I can't keep doing this ain't is this gonna pay? So yes, you have to be open and you
Yeah.
have to be willing to grow.
Okay. Absolutely. So take me to right when you're getting your PhD.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Take me towards like right at the end. Let's say you got 6 months left. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, congratulations again. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
What was your mindset when you knew that you were almost finished getting your degree? Right. And I know you
Um,
have several, but what was your mindset right then and there? Because that it can, I know when I got my bachelor's degree, I'll be honest, I couldn't wait. Those last 6 months, I was like, it's almost over. Right. Now I can start like my master plan. What was your mindset at that point? Did you already know exactly what you wanted to do? Did you want to take a break or you just wanted to go straight into it?
I just wanted to get on the couch and watch Netflix.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
exhausted. My brain hurt. I'm
Okay.
like, I want to look at anything, post my PhD, it definitely, in terms of mental health,
Yeah.
I was happy that I went through it. The toughest
Okay.
part wasn't the classes. The toughest part is the research. One
Mm,
thing they say is the best dissertation, which is the culmination of your research that you have to do before graduating and defending it, um, is a done dissertation. So it's not
mm,
about being perfect, it's about getting it done. Um,
okay.
so if I even go back a little earlier to talk about mental health,
Sure.
whether at Volkswagen and whether pursuing a PhD, because I started my PhD while I was still at Volkswagen,
Mm,
um, I had one department chair mention when I started the program to all of us that life happens. You have to account for life as you're
yep.
pursuing your goals and your dreams. I just let that go in one ear and out the other over my head. I'm like, oh, I've already gotten 2 degrees while doing this. Well, grief in terms of the loss of some siblings
Mm,
when starting my PhD and through my PhD and having to find the passion in keeping going when I, left Volkswagen and
yep.
jumped into consulting, being a road warrior, leaving on a Monday on the plane, coming back on a Thursday and Friday. And
Mhm.
I said, oh, I signed myself up for this. This is
Mm,
not going well. I don't like this.
mm,
This IT on the computer running back and forth,
yep.
this is not me. This is not my value. This is not what I appreciate. This is not my best version of myself. And I had to get out of that.
Okay.
And to tie it to mental health real quick, I was exhausted. I was burnt out before I left Volkswagen.
Mm,
So when I left Volkswagen and I went to the consulting firm, I decided in 2019 that I needed a break. I sold my townhouse. I
okay.
left the workforce
Okay.
and I did my entrepreneurship part time and I finished my PhD. So
Okay.
I knew that I needed a break and I
Okay.
knew that I wasn't in alignment with what I wanted because finishing the PhD was a part of moving forth into my own entrepreneurship and consulting full time.
Okay. So with taking a break, sometimes people can think that is, that's a bad thing. Um, but I know sometimes I've told people too, like sometimes you have to disappear for a little bit, right? Like
Yeah.
you, especially when you have different goals and dreams and things that you're trying to work on. Excuse me, you're trying to work on. People sometimes don't always understand those dreams and those goals.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to keep some of those things to yourself, right? And then people just have to see like kind of the finished product of it.
Yes.
Do you feel like that was something that really helped you by like doing that, taking that break? Or did you feel like that was something that maybe you could have pushed through? Because I know a lot of times as entrepreneurs, they're always where people are always saying like, hey, you're gonna have tough times, you're gonna have really, really hard times. But you got to be able to work through that and bounce back and show your resiliency and all that. But how important was that break for you?
That was extremely important.
Good.
I feel like we say take a break and people might not understand it's a part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Just count it as a step in the process. Don't take it as, oh, I've stopped pursuing what I'm doing. No, it's a part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way with like exercising and weight training. You know, you're fatiguing your muscles at some point and then you rest
You
and
have to
you give
rest.
yourself the protein and the stretching of what you need. And when you go in, you'll notice over time that you
Mm-hmm.
increase your strength. It's
Okay.
the same thing. And as we think about our emotional health and we think about our physical health,
Mm-hmm.
mental health is a part of that as well.
Yep.
It should be normalized, just like going to the dentist, just like going to the doctor for a physical. Mental health and talking to a therapist or counselor should be a part of that.
Absolutely.
I needed that break.
Okay.
I was going to take that break. And me selling my townhome to move into an apartment and decreasing my lifestyle was a part of the strategy. So that's how
Nice.
you know that I was serious about what I was doing. And it actually gave me the flexibility to
Mm.
be able to be out here and network, be more present in the board, and to have more contact with customers. If I'm working for someone else's organization during the daytime, how am I doing that for myself?
Correct. Correct. Okay. Okay. So let's go a little bit to our particular community,
Yes.
right? We deal with a lot of challenges in the workplace, entrepreneurship. A lot of times we're always at a disadvantage. We have a couple steps back,
Yeah, I
right?
know you're talking about preacher kids, PKs now. You talk about that melon, that black and that brown.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I know it's already a challenge. Like a lot of times I look at social media or I'm on social media and I had to take a break from it, particularly honestly. But you see so many things on social media on how we're supposed to be or what's in or what's trending, a specific lifestyle you're supposed to have. So we already have a certain mindset sometimes. Okay, like I have to be this way or act this way or talk this way to fit in. And the way the media portrays it makes us really seem, how do I say it? It just puts us at a step behind.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So coming from the community that we come from, how important do you think it is to like step out and try new things, but also just like really educate yourself? And you talked about doing the research
Mm-hmm.
before you make these decisions. Um, and also not really worrying about fitting in, right? Because I've had that problem in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I don't know if you can remember this. I'm gonna tell you, I remember you telling me, and I'm ranting a little bit, but this happens to me sometimes. But I remember you telling me, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, you have certain gifts, right? But I know this is only a temporary thing for you and what you're doing. That was when I was promoting and all those other things.
Mm-hmm.
You were telling me, are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, you could be doing this, you could be doing that. And at that time, I was kind of like, what? Like, why is she saying that? What is she talking about? But as I got older,
Mm-hmm.
I realized I was thinking closed-minded, right? And I was at that time trying to fit in, right?
Okay.
So again, like give us on your perspective, like how important is it to number one, like do your research, but just step out and think differently compared to what we're taught on how we're supposed to think.
Well, I think that it's also important to put it in context of what season in your life that you're in. Because even in, you sharing yourself personally, even
Mm.
me asking that question, which I'm trying to remember, um, could be just asking if that's what you want to do, because I knew
Mhm.
you had graduated with your degree and you're still pursuing stuff in the, entertainment industry and some
Yep.
things like that, and maybe that might be more tied to like maybe the people you were working with. I don't
Yep.
know.
Yep.
And
That is without going too far into
yeah,
it, but
and it
yeah.
may be that.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't see you staying in that industry and doing that. But I
Right.
think that even the context of the season of our life is important because let's say, I lean into someone asking me that, I might say, oh, is it supposed to be this corporate space? Because when we think about generations, oftentimes we're challenging the younger generations. No, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. But it's necessary in that season through technology. So in our community, when we are especially talking about the research, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean you got to sign up for a course and pay for a class. Resources come in many different ways: information on the internet, in a book, in a class, asking someone who's already doing what you want to do or in the area of what you're doing, or
Yeah.
asking someone who tried to do it and they failed. Um, I think just conversation and networking is the easiest thing in terms of learning because the way we learn is rapid fire now.
Yep.
I know we talked about social media and the media providing a box of how we're supposed to be. And
Mhm.
even our own families and our upbringing has a box for us to be in, an identity.
Yep.
I say put all that on pause. And the first thing that we need to do is to go inward, to do
Mm.
introspection. So for me, I have to go inward. When I get lost so much and overwhelmed into all of these different dynamics of where
Mhm.
I'm getting information, I have to get back to what is important to me. Because before you even ask, what do I want to do? Or some people say calling, purpose, passion. Scrap those words for right now. What is important to you? I
Mm.
feel like you will always come back to that if you're not in line with that. So what's important to me is where I start, and
Yeah.
then I link that to my passion or interest or gifts. Um, yeah, it's kind of hard to say, let me not fall into the niche of what is prescribed to me and stand
Mhm.
out at the same time.
Yep.
Um, once you figure out what's important to you, then you'll be able to either receive certain information or
Mhm.
block certain things that you see in social media. So even though I have advanced degrees, I don't go around saying the one true way is going to college. I don't believe that. I really feel like we got to start at the individual level. Getting caught up in what everybody else is doing is not the way.
Yep.
It's a facade. It's a facade. You only see what people are saying that they're achieving.
Mhm.
And I think that stereotypes and things are polarized about our community, that,
Mhm.
oh, is it only about this type of persona? If you listen
Mhm.
to rap music, people are just like that. Or is it just people who are high and mighty and have degrees? I think you got to set all of that to the side, and you can't get so lost into trying to be like other people. That's not
Right.
what I suggest and not what I want to do. In my 20s, can I see in what capacities that happened to me? Because the internet and social media wasn't quite like that. Sure.
Yeah.
Trying to be around certain organizations, but find out what's important to you, ask that why, and then look and lean to people that could be a resource and information into building that and trying different things.
Okay. So as far as like resources, how do you feel about mentorship? Like
Oh,
specifically when you can be specifically stuck somewhere, because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we do get stuck.
mm-hmm.
Like we have these dreams and these paths, and we want it to go a specific way, and then we can get stuck or get in a rut. What's your opinion and how do you feel about mentorship? Because I talk about that a lot on my channel and on my podcast. I feel like that's a almost like a cheat code to get you where you
Yeah.
need to go, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how you feel about mentorship.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, do the get the resources you need to ask people. And I like that when you say it's like a cheat code. It's like you're learning from someone else's mistakes.
Yeah.
I believe in it. I have mentors and I mentor people. And there are I can't think of his name right now, but there's this professor from Harvard that came up with this grid about networking. And you can
Mm.
have a mentor. Well, you can have mentees, you can
Yep.
have mentors, you can have advocates, you can have coaches, and you can have sponsors. You definitely
Mm.
want some sponsors, people with
Yeah.
the resources and the monies, the yes people that could put you in a place. They
Yep.
don't take all of this, is they're the ones signing the check
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So having that range is important. But I believe mentorship is vital. That way you can learn and be able to scale much quicker than if you were trying to do it on your own. So I really believe in mentorship, and I really believe in personal and professional development community.
Mm.
So for me, I've been a part of this group, a women's networking group through
Okay.
Somi Brand Marketing. The founder and CEO of that is Charnel's Weathersby, and it's a community of women entrepreneurs who are building and incorporating faith. So I've done that. I've signed up for some things through Anthony O'Neill, Sean Kennel, some things around
Nice.
YouTube and personal branding. So
Okay.
investing in myself and being in a community and an atmosphere of people who will help ignite things in me that I know and don't know is so vital. It's like I bring everything back to the gym. Like I don't care how much equipment I can have at home. It's something about going to the gym for me that feeds that previous track and field person in me. It's like it's that
Yeah.
eclectic environment. So uh mentorship is great. Um be open to it. You
Mm.
gotta be humble enough to learn to know you don't know everything.
Exactly. 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 Okay. It's wonderful. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. I was like, it's okay if you don't know things, right? Just say you don't know it. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like you want to learn new things as much as you can. Right. And I always talk about being like the smartest person in the room. Like I don't want to be like that because I'm not learning. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be around people that can teach me different things and educate me and give me, like I said, that level up or that cheat code. So that's great.
Yeah.
Um,
And can I add two things?
yeah.
Because there are certain people who are on the extreme end, like me, where you might sign up for all of these communities, all of these
No.
mentors, and all this group, and it could be too much information and information overload, which is something I'm still working through and perfecting. But you cannot chase five different balls. You have to focus on one or two things and do them well.
Mhm.
That's the first thing, and the other thing I lost, so it wasn't that important to mention. I got lost in that little phrase.
No worries, no worries. I'm also big, Dr. Roman, on having a why, right? And I tell my team all the time, like a why is definitely something that helps motivate you and keeps you
Yeah.
determined and pushes you like
Yes.
you reach those dark and hard times. And I'm very big on telling people there was times when I remember myself literally just sitting in like a dark closet by myself, just thinking like, what am I about to do? Like I
Yeah.
lost my business. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I had my children and I was just like, dang, I have to start over. Like, what do I do? But I started thinking about my why, and it doesn't always have to be something like sad, right? It can be
Mm-hmm.
multiple things. Um, but do you have a why, and how do you feel about, incorporate that into your mental health and entrepreneurship as
Oh
well?
yes. I do have a few whys.
Mhm.
And it is incorporated into my entrepreneurship and my mental health, especially when I feel like giving up. Because I mean, most of my experience has been being an employee,
Mm.
and when you quickly become an entrepreneur, you say, wait a minute, I gotta schedule this. I gotta promote that. I gotta cut this check. I gotta
Yeah.
invoice this. You're doing everything. You're actually working more hours.
Yes.
Everything that what people have been saying about entrepreneurship is true. You
Yeah.
might want that flexibility, but you got to work hard. And in the first few years, you're not probably turning a profit, as
Mhm.
they say. So my first why, I look at, why am I doing consulting? Who am I serving?
Mhm.
And in my corporate experience, the employee was always the person I was serving.
Mm.
I used to think about interview examples like, oh, it's for management, CEOs, and this and that. No, it's for the employee. That's what I do. So
Yeah.
when I think about DEI and I think about organizational change, I'm thinking about all these things happening in organizations and what the employee is experiencing.
Okay.
So I want to make sure workplaces are inclusive and equitable. I'm doing it for an employee. When I'm talking about EEO laws, equal opportunity laws, is for the employee.
Okay.
And that's one of my main whys in the corporate space.
Got
In
it.
a more personal space, tying it to kind of legacy,
Mm.
having something of my own in ownership. And this even ties it to the DEI. And it's that, why not me?
Mm.
Why not me as a Black woman? Why not me? Why not me, someone whose grandfather was a sharecropper?
Mm.
Why not me, as a first generation college student? Which I was like, I guess I am first generation. One of my parents have an advanced degree. I was like, all these scholarships I missed this whole time. So, why not me? So to
Yeah.
hope and to dream and to do it authentically,
Yeah.
in my brown skin, in my natural hair, all those things are very important to me and very vital. And sometimes he's like, well, my why is God. God is in everything. He's
Yeah.
in everything. And it's aligned with that. But I would say the professional, I serve the employee. Just like when I think who I'm serving people in the community. I love to say that I'm a servant. And personally, building something around legacy, and why not me?
Okay.
Humble beginnings, coming from Louisiana, coming from Mississippi, not having a lot. Why not me? And looking
Wonderful.
to be a resource to my parents as they age. Why not me?
Wonderful. Wonderful. So on a side note, I always call it dropping gems, right? And I tell my team or my alumni, that's the people that follow me. Um, I tell them to tap in, and I always take things from certain interviews. There's a bunch of great information, but I'm working on like this plaque, and I put certain quotes and certain things on there. But go to grow,
Go to grow.
and why not me? I'm gonna be
Why not
saying that
me?
all the time. No, that's important. Like people don't
Yes.
understand how important that is to say those things and speak those things into existence, right?
Yes.
But when you said that, it literally like my body just kind of got numb a little bit, right?
Yeah. That's why
It can be.
community is important. You got to be
Yeah,
around people who are speaking that positive stuff.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about your company, right?
Yes.
I want to hear more about it. I want to give you a chance to talk about it, everything that you offer, because I think that it's wonderful, right? But I know you can talk more about it more than I can. So let's hear more about that.
Yes. So, Collective Career Consulting serves in terms of, as I said, diversity, equity, inclusion. How it really started off was career coaching. That's why the name Collective Career Consulting was there. I thought about, oh, maybe I'll do a name change, but it just makes sense because I think
Okay.
about an employee's experience in the workplace, and it's about the full span of their career. Maybe I could change the name later, but I do coaching and consulting and even training to organizations on diversity, equity, inclusion, as well as looking at policies and then
Okay.
organizational culture.
Okay.
My official title was business psychology, but people are more familiar with organizational culture, or I'll just say the HR space in a building, without all the rhetoric and acronyms. But, helping organizations around conflict and change,
Mm.
whether that is technology change or whether that's labor force. We have a lot of organizations that are laying off, they're
Yep.
merging, doing acquisitions, and how you're bringing people into the workplace and how do you make it more inclusive and equitable. All
Mm.
of those things are important, and mental health is important around that.
Yeah.
How do we have an organizational culture where people feel safe to
Yep.
show up to work, um, where people can be their authentic self and say things without feeling like they're going to be ostracized
Mm-hmm.
or demonized. And that
Mm.
goes full scope, whether it's a person of color, as
Mm.
we say, for some terms, not everybody likes the term person of color, or BIPOC, Black, Indigenous person of color, or,
Yeah.
someone that would be a part of the majority in the workspace, someone who may identify as Caucasian. If we talk about allyship, how can we create our workspace where we're not demonizing people for just maybe not understanding or
Okay.
their lived experience? So, yeah, that's what Collective Career Consulting does, focuses on DEI and change within the workplace.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. And where can they find that at? You want to give them like any links, any
Oh,
website?
yeah, they can go to collectivecareerconsulting.com or Dr. Carlotta Roman. Really, that's Dr. CarlottaRoman.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm still getting my Instagram back together in the live, but you can find me in those spaces, or even just email info@drcarlottaroman.com.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much. And I usually at the very end, I've been thinking about it. Like I want to give like my guests a chance to say something to like their future self.
Oh, yes.
Right. So I'll give you time to if you want to think about it a little bit.
Oh,
But
no, I'm ready.
just a couple of years down the line, like if you could say anything to yourself regarding about what we're specifically talking about, if you wanted to just kind of speak to yourself. I know it's a little different, right? But I am putting you on the spot.
Hey, I
But
live for being on the spot.
yeah, just something
um,
that you could say to your future self. What would that be?
it was all worth it.
Mm.
It was all worth it, and thank you
Mm.
for sticking with it. Because, I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes in this entrepreneurial space, we're having degrees and experience. I'm like, man, I could just go right now and get this one job making
Yeah.
this amount of money. But I know after 3 months, I'm gonna say, man, I don't need to be here. I did not give it more time in my all that I could have. So if I picture 5 years down the road, I'm telling myself it was all worth it. And I just am thanking myself by continuing to go through the fire, because I'm growing. It's uncomfortable. So, and I think a bigger piece is build that team, girl. You cannot do this alone. Nobody becomes great by themselves, is what I'm always hearing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Roman.
Thank you so much, Adam.
I appreciate that. I know it's kind of hard to say. What do I call him when I say Adam? Perfectly
You
fine.
know, so I say Adam, founder of SOC University. I'm gonna have to join this university. I want to be a part of the crew.
No, it's okay. We're still building it. I'm still building, but you know how I am, and it's gonna
Yeah,
get there. I've already seen some big growth and a lot of opportunities with that so far. But again, I thank you for your time. Like this means a lot to me, especially on where I'm going and where I see it going.
yeah.
Um, but it means a lot. I appreciate that. And definitely, you guys can definitely find the podcast on Apple Podcasts. It's on Google Podcasts, on Spotify too as well, and on Apple too as well. Not Apple, I'm sorry, YouTube. We do the video version on YouTube. I don't know why I said that twice. But wonderful, Dr. Roman. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. We got to do it again. Like I said, this was only the first season, mainly around mental health and entrepreneurship. But we definitely have to do this again in the future.
Well, I'm all for it. Just let me know. I'll be here.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.